Law Excellence's unique initiative, Current Affairs for Beginners. Let's start our today's session. Before starting the session, first let us see answers for the questions from our previous video. With reference to anti-dumping duty, select the correct statement from below. What is meant by this anti-dumping duty? It is the duty that is imposed on the imports that were being imported to a country at the price that is lower than in its domestic market and also in the importing country's domestic market. So from the below statements, here the answer is C. It is a trade levy imposed by any government on imported products which have prices less than their fair normal values in their domestic market. The answer is C. The next question is, consider the following statements with regard to prepaid payment instruments. Prepaid payment instrument sector is regulated by SEBI. This statement is incorrect because in India it is regulated by the Reserve Bank of India. The next statement is, a non-banking financial company can issue only closed and semi-closed system of instruments. Yes, a non-banking financial company and other financial entities, if they get license from RBI, they can issue these closed and semi-closed prepaid payment instruments. This statement is correct, so the answer here is B2 only. Now let's start today's session, and these are all the articles from today's paper that we are going to cover in our today's video, and these are the topics that we picked from those articles to discuss in detail in our today's core video, and the download link for notes in PDF as well as in document format is available in the description below. Now let's start today's session. Our first article is, Supreme Court turns down opposition plea for increased VVPAT verification. Here the Supreme Court has refused to review its order regarding increasing the VVPAT verification by 50%. In case of prelims, this article comes under the topic of Indian polity, and in case of mains, it comes under GS paper 2 under the topic of government policies and interventions for development in various sectors and issues arising out of their design and implementation. And from the prelims point of view, from this article we should know about two things. One is EVM, electronic voting machine, and what is this voter verified paper audit trail system. Electronic voting machine, it is the machine used to vote through electronic means, and this is designed in with two units. One is the control unit and the other one is the balloting unit. And this controlling unit of EVM is kept with the presiding officer or the polling officer, and these two are connected together by a cable. Whereas this balloting unit is kept within the voting compartment. It is kept within the voting compartment for electors to cast their votes. This is done to ensure that the polling officer will verify the identity of the voter. With the EVM, instead of using a ballot paper, the polling officer will press the ballot button, which will enable the voter to cast his or her vote. A list of candidates' name and or symbols will be available on the EVM with a blue button next to it. The voter can press the button next to the candidate's name they wish to vote for. The next thing is voter verified paper audit trial system. What is this? This is the machine that is attached to this EVM. This machine will be attached to the EVM and it will allow the voter to verify if they have voted to the person they want to vote. How does this machine work? Here, when a voter casts his or her vote on this EVM, then the VVPAT that is attached to this EVM will generate a paper slip, and that slip will have name of the candidate and also the symbol of his party for which the voter has voted to, and this will be recorded in the machine's EVM's control unit. And this printer is attached to the balloting unit. A printer is attached to the balloting unit and that is kept in the voting compartment. Here, this paper slip, which contains the name of the candidate as well as his or her party symbol, will be visible through the VVPAT for 7 seconds through a transparent window, and later this slip can be used to tally with the buttons that were pressed in the EVM. Then what about the legality of this VVPAT? According to Rule 49A of the Conduct of Election Rules of 1961, it says that every EVM should have a controlling unit as well as balloting unit. Control unit as well as balloting unit, and also it can have a printer with a drop box that is attached to the voting machine for printing a paper trail of the vote. This is according to Rule 49A of the Conduct of Election Rules of 1961. Then where is this VVPAT first time used? This is first time used in a by-election in Nagaland in 2013. Then what is the method for counting these VVPAT slips? The poll panel at present it has adopted a system of counting VVPAT slips in one randomly selected polling booth in an assembly constituency and in an assembly segment. But now recently the Supreme Court has extended it to 5 randomly selected EVMs in each assembly constituency and segment. The next article is All for One, None for All. In this article, the author talks about government's initiatives and their success for the marginalized sections, especially Muslims. In case of prelims, this article comes under Indian polity and governance and rights issues topic, and in case of mains, this comes under GS paper 1 under the topic of communalism, and in case of GS2, it comes under welfare schemes for vulnerable sections of the population by central and states, and the performance of these schemes, mechanisms, laws for the betterment of these vulnerable sections. In case of prelims, from this article we should know about what is this Sachar committee report, what is this 15-point program and National Minority Commission that were mentioned in this article. First, let us see what is this Sachar committee and what is its report about. It is a 7-member high-level committee that is headed by Justice Rajendra Sachar. This commission was constituted in 2005 by the then Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. And what is the purpose of this committee? Why it is constituted? In order to prepare a report on latest social, economical and educational conditions of Muslim community in India. How does this report help? It will help in planning, formulating and implementing various interventions, policies and programs to address the issues relating to the socio-economic backwardness of this Muslim community. Now let us see what are the findings of this report. It found that the access to government schools for the children of Muslim parents is limited, and there is poor representation of this Muslim community in decision making positions like IAS, IPS. There is a very low representation, very poor representation, and this committee has placed the Muslims, Indian Muslims, below scheduled castes and scheduled tribes in case of backwardness. If we look into some of the recommendations, major recommendations by the Sachar committee, this committee has recommended to set up an equal opportunity commission so that it will look into the grievances of minorities in public bodies, and it has recommended to create a nomination procedure to increase the participation of minorities in public bodies, and it has recommended to set up a mechanism to link madrasas to higher secondary school board and recognize the degrees that were offered by these madrasas in defense, civil and banking examinations, and it has recommended to set up a national data bank to maintain data for various socio-religious communities. Now let us see what is this 15-point program. This is the government program that is launched in 2005 by UPA government for the welfare of minorities. The objective of this program is to improve opportunities for education and provide equitable share for minorities in economic activities and employment through existing and new schemes, and provide credit support for self-employment and recruitment to the state and central government jobs in the districts where there is substantial minority population. This is mentioned in the objective of this 15-point program. Then what is this substantial minority population? This applies to the districts or sub-districts where at least 25% of the total population of that particular unit belongs to minority communities. Now, let us see what are all those 15 points that were mentioned in this article to work for the welfare of minorities. These are those 15 points that were there in this 15-point program to work for the welfare of minorities. That is to provide equitable availability in ICDS, integrated child development services, improving access to school education, greater resources for teaching Urdu, modernizing madrasa education, scholarships for meritorious students from minority communities, and improving educational infrastructure, and self-employment and wage employment for poor, upgradation of skill through technical training, enhanced credit support for their economic activities, recruitment to state and central services, equitable share in rural housing scheme, improvement in condition of slums inhabited by minority communities, and prevention of communal incidents, prosecution for communal offences, and rehabilitation of victims of communal rights. Next, let us see about this National Minority Commission. National Minority Commission is not a constitutional body. It is a statutory body that was set up under this National Commission for Minorities Act of 1992, and it works under the Ministry of Minority Affairs. Previously, before this Ministry of Minorities Affairs was formulated, it is under the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. And this commission consists of a chairman, a vice chairman, and 5 members. What it does, what is the function of this National Minorities Commission? This will evaluate the progress of development in minorities, and it will monitor the functioning of safeguards, that are the measures taken to protect the rights of minorities that were provided in the constitution, as well as laws that were enacted by the parliament and state legislatures. And it will recommend the effective implementation of those measures to protect the interests of minorities by central as well as state governments, and it will look into the complaints. This point is very important. It will look into the complaints regarding deprivation of minorities' rights from members of 6 religious communities. They are Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, Buddhists, Zoroastrians or Parsis, and Jains. And it will take up the matters to the appropriate authorities. The next article is the National Register of Cruelty. In this article, the author discusses about the extremities or loopholes of this National Register of Citizens. And this article, in case of prelims, it comes under the topic of Indian polity, and in case of mains, it comes under GS1 under the topic of communalism, and in case of GS2, it comes under issues relating to development and management of social sectors or services, and issues relating to poverty and hunger. So from the prelims point of view, in this article we should know about National Register of Citizens, Citizenship Bill, and Assam Accord. All these were in detail explained in our 2nd May video, and it starts from 20 minutes 42 seconds. This is the timing of this video. All these 3 were explained in detail, and in our today's core video notes, the notes for all these 3 topics was provided in detail. Please look into the notes. The next article is Belt and Road 2.0. This article is completely about the objectives of Belt and Road Initiative of China. In case of prelims, it comes under current events of national and international importance, and in case of mains, it comes under GS paper 2 under the topic of international relations. So from the prelims point of view, from this article, we should know about Belt and Road Initiative, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor and Hambantota Port. Now, we have been discussing about this Belt and Road Initiative and China-Pakistan Economic Corridor since past 1 week. So, please look into our May 1st video for this Belt and Road Initiative, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor and some other initiatives in the recent Belt and Road Forum that were discussed. China-Myanmar Economic Corridor, Nepal-China Trans-Himalayan Multi-Dimensional Connectivity Network. For all this, please refer to our May 1st core video notes, and it starts from 10 minutes 53 seconds. Now, let's say about this Hambantota port, which we have not discussed yet. But notes for this Belt and Road Initiative and CPEC is also provided in today's notes. Whenever any port that is mentioned in the paper, please make a note of it, its location and what is this port. This Hambantota port is a deep water port that is located in the southern tip of Sri Lanka. It is located close to the busy east-west shipping lanes that connect Europe with Asia. It connects Europe with Asia. The next article is Surveillance Wars in Space. This article discusses about the possible threat that is posed to every nation's satellites with the increasing space activities like Mission Shakti. In case of prelims, this article comes under the topic of current events of national and international importance, and in case of mains, this article comes under GS paper 3 under the topic of science and technology, developments in their applications and effects in everyday life. Now, from the prelims point of view, we should know about this Mission Shakti. What is this Mission Shakti? It is a joint program of DRDO, Defense Research and Development Organization, and Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO. As part of this mission, an anti-satellite weapon was launched in Odisha. Then, what is this anti-satellite missile test? Here you can see in this image. From this we can understand what is meant by an anti-satellite test. It is the capability to hit and destroy the satellites that were there in space by launching a missile from ground. The first anti-satellite test was carried out by US in 1959, which was followed by the Soviet Union in 1960, and then China did it in 2007. So now India is the fourth country to carry out this anti-missile test. There is no international treaty that prohibits this testing or development of these anti-satellite weapons. But according to the rules, this test can be carried out only on one's own satellites. We did it on our imaging satellite Microsat R, which is located in the low Earth orbit. Low Earth orbit is an orbit around the Earth which is at an altitude above the Earth's surface from 160 kilometers to 2000 kilometers. The next article is Government asks Supreme Court to rethink elevation of 2 High Court judges. The government has asked the Supreme Court to reconsider its recommendation in elevating 2 High Court judges to the Supreme Court. In case of prelims, this article comes under Indian polity, and in case of mains, this article comes under GS paper 2, appointment to various constitutional posts, powers, functions and responsibilities of various constitutional bodies. And in case of prelims, from this article we should know about this concept known as Collegium that is mentioned in this article. What is meant by Collegium? It is the system by which judges are appointed by judges only, and it is also referred to as judges selecting judges. It is the process where the judges are appointed by judges only. This system of appointment and transfer of judges was evolved through judgments of Supreme Courts, but not by any act of Parliament or by a provision of the Constitution. The Supreme Court Collegium is headed by the Chief Justice of India, and it comprises of 4 other senior most judges of the court, whereas a High Court Collegium is led by the Chief Justice, its Chief Justice and 4 other senior most judges of that court. Now if we look into the process of appointment, the names recommended for appointment by a High Court Collegium will reach the government only after approval by the CJI that is the Chief Justice of India, and the Supreme Court Collegium. The government is bound to appoint a person as a Supreme Court judge if Collegium sends back its recommendation even after government asks the Supreme Court to reconsider its decision. And this system was evolved through the Supreme Court judgment in 3 judges case. Now if we look into the evolution of Collegium, in the first judge's case, the CJI will not have any priority over the executive in appointing the judges of Supreme Court and High Court. Here the CJI is not given any priority. Whereas in second judge's case, the decision made that the judiciary is the de facto appointing authority of themselves. That is, it is the judiciary who should appoint themselves by curtailing the powers of Council of Ministers under Article 74 Clause 1. Whereas in third judge's case, the 9-judge bench again had confirmed that the opinion of the Collegium of Judges have importance, have primacy in appointing and transfer of judges of higher judiciary. The next article is Reporters Freed from Myanmar Prison. The 2 journalists who were convicted for breaking the Official Secrets Act in Myanmar were released after serving the sentence in jail for more than 500 days. In this article, in case of prelims, it comes under current events of national and international importance, and in case of mains, it comes under GS paper 2 under the topic of international relations. In this article, what is important for us is Pulitzer Prize. Both these journalists, they were awarded with Pulitzer Prize, and now let us see what is this Pulitzer Prize. Pulitzer Prize is an annual award for achievements in newspaper, magazine, online journalism, literature and musical composition in the United States of America. This is established in 1917 in the will of American Hungarian-born newspaper publisher Joseph Pulitzer, and these prizes are awarded every year in 21 categories, and the winner in the category known as Public Service category of journalism will be awarded with gold medal. The next article is Iran to reduce nuclear commitments. As a response to United States withdrawal from Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, Iran has decided to reduce its commitments to the nuclear deal. In case of prelims, this article comes under the topic of current events of national and international importance, and in case of mains, it comes under GS paper 2 under the topic of international relations. So from the prelims point of view, we should know about what is this Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action that is mentioned in this article. Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, it is commonly known as Iran Deal. This Iran Deal was signed between Iran, P5 countries and Germany and European Union in 2015. Who are these permanent 5 countries? US, UK, Russia, China and France. This deal was signed with an aim to curb Iran's nuclear program. Under this deal, Iran is agreed to make certain changes to its nuclear program in order to ensure that its nuclear program will not threaten the regional stability. In return to this deal, the international sanctions that were imposed on Iran will be lifted. But US has withdrawn from this Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action in 2018. So now, as a response to that withdrawal of US, Iran has decided to reduce its commitments to the nuclear deal. The next article is India has overly restrictive market barriers. At the Trade Winds Conference that is being held in Delhi, the United States Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross said tariffs and non-tariff barriers, data localization regulations are the major disadvantages for foreign companies in India. In case of prelims, this article comes under economic and social development and also under current events of national and international importance, and in case of mains, it comes under GS paper 3 under the topic of economy, and the subtopic is effects of liberalization on the economy, changes in industrial policy and their effects on industrial growth. In this article, the US Commerce Secretary has been saying that data localization regulations is one of the major disadvantage for foreign companies in India. So we should know what is meant by this concept of data localization. Data localization is the process of storing data on any device that is physically present within the borders of a specific country where the data was generated. For example, the data of all the Facebook users in India has to be stored within India, within the territory of India. The next article is Government Refutes Report on Discom Debt Levels. The government has denied CRISIL's report on external debt of state-owned distribution companies that it is about to increase to pre-Uday levels. In case of prelims, this article comes under economic and social developments, and in case of mains, it comes under GS paper 3 under the topic of economy, and the subtopic is infrastructure under energy. So from the prelims point of view, we should know about the scheme that is mentioned in this article, Ujjwal Discom Assurance Yojana. The administering ministry of this scheme is the Ministry of Power, and this scheme was launched in 2015 with the objectives of financial turnaround, operational improvement, reduction of cost of power generation, development of renewable energy, energy efficiency and conservation. These are all the objectives of this program. What is this first objective? Financial turnaround. What is meant by financial turnaround? It is the recovery period. When a company is experiencing a poor performance, it is not functioning properly, then the recovery period to bring back the company to its normal stage is known in the form of financial recovery, is known as financial turnaround. From the scheme, what is important for us to know is what are the salient features of this scheme. According to this scheme, for this financial turnaround, that is to recover the state distribution companies, here the state government will take care of 75% debt of these distribution companies. And the state, in order to clear the 75% debt, the state government will issue SDL bonds. What are these SDL bonds? State development loans. These are nothing but like government securities. These are also some dated security. It is like a bond which is issued by the state for meeting its borrowing requirements. These are similar to the dated securities that were issued by the central government. So to borrow money, this state government will issue these SDL bonds to take over the debt and transfer the proceeds. Whatever money they have obtained through these bonds, it will transfer to those distribution companies in the form of grant, loan and equity. That is, by providing this assistance, it will do it in the form of providing a grant so that the company need not pay it, in the form of loan which it should pay, and in the form of equity. It is like an investment. The government will get some share in that distribution company, and the maturity period of those bonds is for 10 to 15 years. Whereas the balance 25% debt will remain with these distribution companies, and these distribution companies, they can issue a state-backed discom bonds. That means there will be a guarantee from state government on these bonds. And we have seen about a concept known as restructuring of loans. What is meant by restructuring? For example, a person was not able to repay the loan which he or she has taken. Then there are three things the government can do. They can notify it as a non-performing asset, and they can say it as they can restructure the loan. That means they can reduce the amount or reduce the interest rate or increase the time period for the person to repay. That is known as restructuring. So in the same process here, in case of this 25% debt that is with the distribution companies, the banks or financial institutions, they can reprice the interest rates, and the states will take over the future losses of distribution companies in a graded manner. Here, one thing we have to know is Jharkhand and Jammu and Kashmir were provided exemption. They were given special exemption for taking over the debts of these distribution companies. The next article is US to propose hike in H1B application fee. The US government has decided to increase the H1B application fee. And in case of prelims, it comes under the topic of current events of national and international importance. In case of mains, it comes under GS paper 2 under the topic of effects of policies and politics of developed and developing countries on India's interests and Indian diaspora. So from the prelims point of view, in this article, we should know about this H1B visa. What is this H1B visa? It is a non-immigrant visa. It is a non-immigrant visa that will allow the US companies to employ graduate level workers in special occupations which needs theoretical or technical expertise in specialized fields for a certain period of time. We have been seeing our Indians going to abroad to work and they were being sent by their companies. So for these people to go and work there, they need this H1B visa. Now let's see a prelims questions. When a voter presses a button in the electronic voting machine, a paper slip is printed through the VVPAT. This slip contains. The next question is, consider the following with reference to the Uday scheme. Try to answer these questions and post your answers in the comment box. In tomorrow's video, we'll see a detailed explanation for these questions. And the download link for notes of this video is available in PDF as well as in document format in the description below. Thank you.